Grr, arg.
Hey guys, welcome to the season 9 finale of the Mixtape Podcast, a podcast dedicated to discussing film from a writer's perspective. I am your master of ceremonies for this time around. My name is Marcelo Nostromo. I'm joined, as always, by my fellow co-host, Dean Stark. And on today's program, we'll be discussing the 1986 film Aliens, written and directed by James Cameron. So, as I do almost every week, I will pass it over to Dean so she can take us through this film.
I think James Cameron is such an underrated writer. Everybody sees him as this director, but he is an amazing screenwriter. Like amazing, amazing. He should have won an award for this because the way that this was written, he just writes ensembles really well. Anyway, if you don't know what Aliens is about, it is about this. Decades after surviving the Nostromo incident, Ellen Ripley is sent out to reestablish contact with a colony. So the opening scene is we see Ripley and she's in a hibernation pod aboard a shuttle. The shuttle kind of intersects with a ship and people come aboard and she's brought to a space station and she's in hospital and she wakes up and a man named Burke informs her that she was in hibernation for 57 years. And then she starts basically having convulsions and just before the chest burster comes out, she wakes up. So that's the opening scene. That's really quick. Like this movie is set up so quick. Like I think by like the 10th minute, we're already we've met everybody. We're on our way to the planet. It jumps off right where Alien left off.
I love the way that this film starts out. The thing that I love about it so much is that, like Dean said, I think that James Cameron does such a good job at setting up the table to what this film is going to be. We find out that Ripley is found. We also find out, like Dean said, that she's been adrift. So the setup to this movie is fucking fantastic.
So Ripley's in a debrief with a panel of suits and she's telling a story about what happened and they don't believe her. And she gets the shits. She's saying, listen, the planet that they landed on had thousands of eggs. And if one of them gets off the planet, we're fucked. But they still don't believe her and they're umming and ahhing. And basically they're just like, yeah, we're just going to close the case. And she goes up to one of them when they're all leaving and she's like, basically, what's going on? And he says that there has been a colony living on that planet that the aliens are from, that the alien eggs were on for 20 years with no incident. Ripley has been in cryostasis for 57 years. And she was just like, you have people on that planet? And he's like, well, for 20 years, nothing has happened. That's a setup, again, for what is going to come.
I really like how James Cameron takes the lead of this movie, Ripley, and basically makes her come off as an insane person. And I really, really like that when she's in the debrief by the company that nobody fucking believes her and she comes off as a crazy person. And I also really like how the company has these underlined wants with the colony that they established on this planet that's been there for X amount of years. As an audience member, we don't know the real reason why the company established this colony on this specific moon base until later on, but that's a great way to push the story forward.
So Ripley is informed that they have lost contact with the colony and need her to go back to the planet with a team of Marines to see what happened. And she obviously says no fucking way. But the Burke, who is offering her, he offers her to reinstate her status as flight officer if she goes, because it was stripped from her. I don't know why it was stripped from her. That wasn't really said, but it was. And she says the only job she can get is working in cargo, which comes back later. But she still says no because she's afraid. I wouldn't want to go back to the planet with the aliens. Would you want to go back to the planet with the aliens?
No, I would not.
We're on our way to the planet and we meet the Marines escorting Ripley. And they all awake from hypersleep and we meet Hicks, Hudson, Apone, Drake, Frost, Farrow, Vasquez, and Gorman, and a few other cannon fodder, because that's what they are. They're all cannon fodder. And here comes the best line of the entire movie. And I have heard it quoted a few times in my life. Hudson, who is played amazingly by Bill Paxton, he's a smartass. He's a smartass. He's not fun. He's just an idiot. He's such a moron, but we love him. We love him because it's Bill Paxton. So he's watching Vasquez doing pull-ups. Now, Vasquez is quite masculine and, masculine in her physique. And he goes up to her because he's a smartass, and he asks her,
"Hey, Vasquez, have you ever been mistaken for a man?"
No. Have you?
Oh, Vasquez.
and all the other guys piss themselves because they all like her. And that's what I like about this movie. The pilot is a female and there's 2 female Marines. But it's never a problem. It's never addressed that they're weaker. There's no funny business going on. The guys treat the girls like one of them, and I love that. It's a non-issue. And Vasquez gets the biggest gun out of all of them, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But I just like the camaraderie between them. So now we meet Bishop, who is played excellently by Lance Hendrickson, who is an android, and Ripley. She hasn't had a good time with past androids. And she instantly goes, nope, fuck this. Why is he here? But Burke says, look, it's been basically 57 years. They're fine now. He knows what happened with Ash. It's not going to be like that. And Bishop assures her that he is an upgrade. He's nothing like the model and he cannot harm humans in any way, shape, or form. They fixed that. It's fine. But she still says, basically, keep the fuck away from me. I really love Bishop as a character. I wish that James wrote him in more, because really what James used Bishop for was a device. He used him as a device, and I wish he used him more as a character.
I love the introduction of the Marines that are going to go with Ripley throughout this movie, because each one of these Marines has a distinct personality, and each one of these characters feel like they're lived-in people. Each one of these characters feel like they had a whole life before this movie started. And to me, that is the best way that you can layer your characters. To move to your point about Bishop, I think that Bishop is the best android in the Alien franchise. James should have utilized him more as a character. James gave the character of Bishop enough for me to actually give a fuck when it comes to what happens to him at the end of the movie. And Bishop is the first android made by the company that has a sense of self.
Yeah, exactly. You know, my favorite android in the Alien series is Cole from Alien Resurrection. She's my favorite android.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Winona Ryder. Ripley's debriefing the Marines on the aliens. But they don't seem fazed by it. It's just another mission to them. They don't believe that they're this like massive, massive threat. And Hudson makes smart-ass comments. And like I said, he's the moron of the Marines, but we love him. I don't know what his name is. I love the commanding officer. It's not Gorman. It's the other guy that doesn't go to the planet with them.
I don't know what his name is either, but he's the one that says,
all right, sweethearts, what are you waiting for? Breakfast in bed? Another glorious day in the Corps. Day in the Marine Corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal's a banquet. Every paycheck a fortune. Every formation a parade. I love the Corps.
I love him because Hudson every time Hudson pipes up, he just gives him this look like, shut the fuck up, Hudson, right? But then once he dismisses it, and it's such a small thing, but I love it. He looks dead at Hudson and he says, Hudson, come here. And then James Cameron just cuts it, and you know that Hudson is going to get his ass chewed out for being a fucking idiot. And I absolutely fucking love it. And I wish that character was in it more, because he actually had really good lines and I really liked him.
I feel that there are a lot of characters in this movie that James Cameron underused. The commanding officer character is one of those individuals.
The Marines are gearing up, and Ripley asks the corporal if there's anything she can do, because she wants to be helpful. They were like, well, and Apone actually says, well, what can you do? I love this. And she says,
well, I can drive that loader. I have a Class 2 rating.
Be my guest.
So she can operate the cargo loader. It's the iconic yellow body loader that Ripley kind of steps into. It's like a mechanical, like transformer. The Caterpillar P5000 powered work loader. That's what it's called.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
a
fucking
that's a
mouthful.
mouthful. Oh my god.
So anyway, she says she can operate it. Apone and Gorman are laughing because it's like she's a woman. There's no way she'd be able to do it. She straps into this thing and operates it like a pro, picks up a really heavy item, turns to them and says, "Where do you want it?" And the sergeant and the corporal start pissing themselves laughing because they cannot believe that she can actually do it. They're like, and he's like, "Bay 12, please." And I just thought it was just a way for Ripley to go, you know what? I know I'm not a boy, but I can do boy things. I love it.
I really love the scene because not only does it show the Marines and the characters that Ripley is going to be interacting with for the course of this movie, but it actually sets something up for way later in the movie in the third act by Ripley using the loader thingy. So James Cameron kills two birds with one stone.
So they land near the colony in like this Hummer thing that's broken off from the helicopter. But there's no one around. And the Marines enter the building. Now, Ripley and Corporal Gorman are in the Hummer, and there's cameras everywhere, and the Marines have got body cams on so they can see everything that's going on. And I don't even know what the weapon is, but Vasquez has this big weapon that's like strapped around her waist. And like, she's the first one in. She's like, point man, she's in. I'm like, oh my God. I just love it. So they're searching the complex and there's no one. There's no one outside in the colony. There's no one inside, but they do find a melted hole in the grates and we know what that is. And Ripley knows what that is. And she's like, oh shit. So they enter the med lab and see face huggers in containment tanks. And then they spot something moving towards them on the sensor because they've got a little sensor thing like they did in the first Alien and find a little girl. And of course, this is Newt.
I love how James Cameron builds up the tension with basically showing shot after shot of the Marines walking through this colony. The deeper that the Marines get into the colony, the more anxiety and the more tension filled that the audience feels. As a matter of fact, Alien doesn't fully show up in this movie until an hour and 7 minutes into the movie.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
If that does not illustrate to you what a skilled storyteller James Cameron is, I don't know what will.
Yeah, that's skill. That's absolutely skill. So Ripley speaks to Newt, who tells her entire family is basically dead. Everybody's dead. And Ripley tells her that she's safe because these soldiers, these Marines are here to protect us. And then Newt says, it won't make a difference. And right there, you're like, oh, this is bad.
I also really, really like Newt as a character because she's such a cute little girl. She's a really, really good storytelling device for Ripley to have more incentive to get out of there alive. Because I feel if Ripley was there alone, I feel that she would have died with the Marines. But having a child there gives Ripley something to fight for and Ripley something to live for. And so I really like how James Cameron used Newt as a storytelling device.
I really like Newt because what she does, James Cameron has done for Aliens what Dan O'Bannon, the writer of Alien, did for Alien, right? He's created Ripley, which is like badass female boss bitch, right? But he has to give her some, because she is female, right? He has to give her something to bring out her feminine nurturing qualities to balance her out. Because what writers do these days with female action heroes is they just give them masculine traits, forgetting that females can be boss bitches, but we also have that supportive, nurturing, feminine energy, sensitivity side, right? So what Dan O'Bannon did with Alien is he gave her a cat. So that was her nurturing side. She wanted to protect the cat. And what James Cameron did for this one gave her Newt, brought out her nurturing, feminine, sensitive side. So it wasn't unbalanced. And I think writers these days, when they write women, they don't, especially women action heroes, they don't balance it properly. I don't know what's wrong. There's something gone wrong here. But that's why I liked Newt. And there are a lot of qualities that do help the Marines through the story. But I think the main thing is, yes, it gives Ripley something to fight for, like the cat in the first one, and it brings out her feminine side, so it's not so, butch. So the next scene, the Marines step into basically like an unusual looking corridor. Now we know it's an alien corridor just by the way it's designed. They don't know, but we know the audience because we've seen the first Alien, hopefully. And they discover cocooned colonists, try saying that 5 times fast, in the walls. And one of the colonists wakes up and a little alien bursts from her chest, and the Marines basically use the flamethrower, which is the best weapon of all, to kill it. Now, there's movement all around them, and then an alien grabs a Marine from above, pulling them up, and basically all hell breaks loose. Now, Ripley and Corporal Gorman can see them from the Hummer, like, because they're not there, they're far away, on their body cams. Basically, they're watching them getting fucking slaughtered. And Ripley keeps telling Gorman, tell them to get out of there. And Gorman just like frozen. Like he cannot believe what he's seeing, even though Ripley briefed them, but none of them believed her. This is the case of like the crazy person was right all along. Anyway, the corporal was panicking and Ripley decides, she pushes him out of the way. She's like, fuck this. She gets in the driver's seat and she puts the pedal to the metal. She's like, I'm going to go in to get them. And the corporal's trying to stop her. And anyway, she goes in, she busts through the door. She drives like the Hummer Jeep car thing and picks up the remaining or the surviving Marines. It's a really cool fight scene because the way that James has filmed the Marines getting slaughtered, you kind of don't know what's going on. Like you kind of know the aliens are doing it, but you don't really see it. It's a series of like quick edits. So kudos to the editor for editing that scene.
I had a few issues with the scene. I feel that it took Ripley too long to react. Ripley should have known that the area that the Marines were walking into was basically like an alien nest, and she should have known that we were going to find dead individuals in the alien cocoons. And once we saw that first individual, I would have appreciated it if Ripley would have started moving right away, not try to go through procedure and not try to reason with that fucking idiot Gorman, who is the worst.
I don't think he's had field training though.
Also, I do agree with you that it was a really, really great directing choice by James Cameron to once the shit hits the fans with the Marines, to not basically give us a actual full picture of what's happening. A lot of what happens with the Marines is shown on the small television screens within the Hummers.
So afterwards, Ripley wants to basically blow the entire colony structure to Kingdom Come. And Burke chimes in and says, but it's worth millions. And, I'm against exterminating an entire species. And you're just like, huh? It was at that point that you go, oh, he's not good, he's bad. But we should have known that from the beginning because he's a company man. And company men are yes men. And company men usually in movies are not good. So Ripley, being the boss that she is, she looks Burke in the eye and she goes, well, this operation is actually under military command, so you have no say. And you're just like, fuck, that's burn. That's burn.
I love the fact that when Burke tries to pull rank, that Ripley uses a military guideline to basically tell Burke that he has no authority here.
So Corporal Hicks, he calls in for a helicopter evac and says that they'll nuke the site once they're evacuated because now his commanding officer is gone. Hicks is in charge. So the helicopter evac arrives and, oh no, there's a stowaway alien on board and everybody gets dead and the helicopter crashes and oh no. So that's that.
As a kid, I always felt really bad for this helicopter pilot. She didn't get much to do. And she got impaled by a fucking alien. Like, God damn it.
God. She got done by. She got hard done by James. She was a cool cat and he just fucking went, you're getting 2 scenes and then you're going to die. That's it. So Ripley ends up asking Hicks when they can expect a rescue. And he says, from when we don't check in, it's 17 days, which seems like a little long. And then Hudson freaks out because Hudson you know, he's a smart ass. He's like, oh yeah, this and this. Like he's just a moron. But once shit hits the fan, he panics. He panics like a little girl going to preschool for the first day. He fucking does, which is what makes his character so lovable. It's the fact that he acts all masculine, but when shit hits the fan, she's actually really scared. And I love that juxtaposition in his character.
I love the way that James Cameron built the character of Hudson, because he gave Hudson these masculine traits, but the minute that shit hits the fan, like Dean just said, Hudson basically recoils and goes into a small little ball and starts crying in the corner like a little boy. I really, really, really love the juxtaposition that James Cameron gave to that specific character, and the fact that Hudson is played by the immortal Bill Paxton just completes the package.
Yeah. So Ripley asks, basically she tells Hudson, calm the fuck down, and I need you to find floor plans for the entire base because we need to see what we're working with. And he's like, yep, I can do it. So he finds them and they're looking at the plans, and Ripley sees a tunnel that the aliens are using to get in and out. So she wants to seal off the duct to stop them. So they seal it off, and they seal off the duct, and Hicks gives Ripley a tracker, which is like a watch. So if they get separated, he can find her. But Ripley gives it to Newt. I love that. I love the little tracker thing because it's a setup. Obviously, it's a setup for when Newt goes missing and they can find her, they can track her. So I really, really love that setup by James.
It was a wonderful setup by James, but I also like the scene because I love the motherly sincerity that James gave to Ripley in that moment with Newt. It was so lovely to see.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Newt really brings out the nurturing qualities, the feminine qualities in Ripley, so she's not so masculine. So yeah, I think that Newt really, really served Ripley as a character. So Ripley goes to the med lab to speak to Bishop, who tells her that most of the colonists were taken as hosts. Then Ripley says, the facehuggers come from the eggs, but who is laying all the eggs? And Bishop says something we haven't seen. And you're like, So Ripley also says, look, when you're done, because Bishop is kind of studying them, when you're done, destroy the facehuggers. And Bishop says, well, Burke actually instructed me to take them back to the space station alive. And Ripley is just like, oh, it's just like a repeat. So she goes to Burke. Burke is a weasel. Burke is a little boy masquerading as a man. He's just a little boy. So Ripley confronts Burke, who says, the facehuggers are worth millions to the bioweapon division. And we also find out that Burke he's the one that actually sent the colonists to the planet knowing the alien ship was actually there. Ripley's pissed. She's so pissed, she grabs him by the shirt and like pushes him up against the wall, and he does nothing because he's a little fucking dweeb. He's a little company man dweeb.
Learning that Burke was the mastermind behind the colony being massacred by the aliens. It's always a part of this movie that makes my blood boil. So that's why I hate the character of Burke so much, because he's a fucking dweeb, like Dean said.
Yes, as someone that has worked within companies, they are all the same, because if they're not, then they don't have a job. They're all yes men. They don't care what it takes. They want to go up in the ranks. They want the paycheck. They don't care who gets in the way. They're all the same. So he was actually written annoyingly accurate. So Hicks shows Ripley how to use his awesome weapon, which is good. Because I can't even tell you, Marcelo, how many movies have you seen where the main character just randomly knows how to use weapons, and it's like, how does a school teacher know how to use a fucking weapon? Like, if the main character is not set up to know how to use a weapon, even if it's just a handgun, because you have to know the safety, you have to know how to take the magazine out, you have to know these things. You can't just know them. I don't know them. Someone would have to tell me. So the fact that James Cameron was showing, but he wasn't just showing Ripley how to use it, he was showing us how the weapon works, which is the genius of James Cameron. But isn't that annoying when characters just know how to do things and it's like, it wasn't set up as a skill in the character.
If you take the time to show your audience how a character knows how to do a specific skill that they need to survive, it keeps you within the world of the story.
Now, this scene I have a problem with. I don't know if I missed something, but I have a massive issue with this scene. You tell me if I fucking missed something. So Ripley and her awesome new weapon check on Newt, who Marcella said before. There was a scene where she put her to bed and she's going to check on her. Now Newt is under the bed hiding because she's scared. There's no alien. She's just hiding, right? Now Ripley places her gun on the bed and scoots under the bed with Newt. It's just a single bed. It's not fucking king size bed or anything. Literally for a second, and then she looks over and sees a containment tank, which had a face hugger in it, is now smashed on the floor, empty, the face hugger is out. Now, she tries to reach for her gun on the bed, but the gun is not there. The face hugger jumps to Ripley, and she and Newt are basically locked in the room. Ripley tries to get out, and then she sees her gun is in the other room. So somebody's taken the gun, locked the door, smashed the tank. And then we see Ripley kind of waving to the camera, and Burke switches off the TV so the other Marines won't see. So just by that action, you can tell, oh no, he did it. And then Ripley sets off the sprinklers, setting off an alarm, and the Marines kind of race to her. My issue with that scene is Ripley went under the bed. She placed her gun on the bed. How the hell did someone come in, take the gun, smash the containment tank, lock the door, and get out without her hearing or seeing anything?
That has to be a mistake, because that's not physically possible. Because there's no way somebody could come into the room, grab Ripley's gun, do everything that Dean just said, and have it make sense. That doesn't make any sense at all.
And when they were under the bed, they were actually facing away from the wall, like the door. They were facing the door.
Maybe in the director's cut version of this movie, there's a little bit more context when Ripley puts the gun on the bed. She goes under the bed and does everything with Newt. Maybe for the theatrical version, all that shit was cut out.
You're right. They probably would have cut down the scene. So the Marines get to the med lab where Ripley and Newt are locked in. They smash through the windows. A face hugger is attacking Ripley and Newt, and they kill the face huggers. And it's actually a really fun action scene. And Ripley tells the Marines Burke did this to them. So they grab Burke. Ripley confronts Burke in front of all the Marines, saying that she's telling them, your plan was you needed a host in order to get the alien back to base. It was the only way that you could do it. And he was going to, on the way back, mess with the Marines' incubators or hyperchambers, whatever they are, on the way home to basically kill them so they wouldn't say what actually happened on the planet. So he would be the only one that would know. And Ripley says, and she's absolutely right. And this is when Vasquez puts a gun to Burke's head. I'm going to kill him, which is exactly what I would do.
I love the sequence with Ripley and Newt dealing with the face hugger, and I also love the sequence when we find out what was Burke's overall plan and how he was going to get a living specimen of the alien back to the company.
So now the power goes out and they barricade themselves in a room. Hudson has the tracker and he reads multiple life forms moving towards them, and they're standing back from the door. They've got their guns ready, and he's like, okay, they're 5 meters out. And Ripley goes, but that would mean that they're in the room with us. And then they all look up, and Hicks pushes up like a ceiling grate, and it's like, oh my God, this is the creepiest shot. He takes a peek, and we see literally like multiple aliens like running really fast or crawling really fast towards them. And it makes me uncomfortable thinking about that scene. So the aliens drop into the room and all hell breaks loose. We get a really cool action scene. Burke runs off, closing off the only other exit, trapping them in because he's a dweeb, but then gets dead by an alien, which is like 2 thumbs up. Again, he didn't realize what he was getting into. Hudson unfortunately gets dead. He's pulled under by an alien. I wanted Hudson to survive because I really liked him, but he gets dead. And the remainder enter the air ducts to escape. Now, Vasquez and Gorman are basically cornered. There's aliens coming at them from every direction, and they end up blowing themselves up, which is a shame because I liked Vasquez too. Ripley loses Newt when she drops into like a sewer pool thingy. But Newt has the tracker on, so Hicks and Ripley are tracking her, so they're going to find her. That was a massive, massive fight scene, and I think that was probably one of the best fight scenes in the fight scene. It wasn't even a fight scene. It was like a get the fuck out of the room because aliens are going to kill you scene. But it was really cool.
That scene was so well constructed from a action perspective. I love the moment when they go up in the roof and, like Dean said, they push up that grate and you see the aliens running real fast through the crawl spaces. That scene as a kid creeped the fuck out of me. Like there's something about it that just that fucking irked the shit out of me. Listen, I also love the way that Vasquez goes out, and the fact that she goes out with the leader of the fucking group that was a fucking pussy. James Cameron boils down the entire cast to only a few people, and it really, really, really hikes up the tension because as an audience member, if you're seeing this movie for the first time, you don't know who's going to live and who's going to die. Like this movie is so well constructed that as a kid, I always thought that Ripley was going to die.
So they find Newt eventually, but they need to get through a grate to get to her, and then this is a really cool shot. Newt is in like the sewer thing. There's like water up to her waist, and then we see this like alien rise up behind her, and it's like the coolest shot I think in the whole fucking movie. Ripley hears her scream, and by the time they get through the gate, Newt is gone. Now, because she's got a tracking device on, the tracker is still tracking, so there's no body because Ripley jumps down there. And Ripley and Hicks race to get outside, and they see the evac landing controlled by Bishop because he was sent forth before to get the other evac helicopter because he's an android and he's the only one that could control it to get down. And he says, we've got 26 minutes until the entire colony blows up. And Ripley says that's enough time. She wants to go find Newt, or at least find out if she's dead or alive, because there's no way she's leaving the planet without her. So she gears up and goes back in alone. Basically, she goes into like the Queen's nest.
The moment when James Cameron goes to Newt, basically with water up to her waist, and you see the alien come up slowly behind her, is, without a shadow of a doubt, I agree with you, the coolest shot in this movie. But I love how James Cameron, from a storytelling perspective, he ramps up the action in this movie exponentially, and with every turn of the story wheel that he makes, it just gets better. It's great storytelling here at its finest.
Ripley enters the hive, tracking Newt. But she finds Newt's tracker on the ground, basically torn off. And then she's like, oh, no, she knows she's dead. But then we see Newt, and she's like half cocooned, and an egg in front of her opens up, and she starts screaming. And Ripley hears her and rushes to her, grabs her, and they go to rush off. And then Ripley sees her. She sees it, the Queen. And it's such, oh my God, it's such good design. It's unbelievable. And then Ripley backs off slowly, not making a sound because there's eggs everywhere. This is the Queen's chamber. There's eggs everywhere. The Queen's there. And it's funny because Ripley has a gun and there are other aliens, but when they see that she's there, they back off. Not because they're scared of her, but because they don't want to risk damaging the Queen, which I think was a really cool thing that James did. So anyway, she's backing off slowly until an egg to her left starts opening up, and she knows, and we know, when an egg opens, a face hugger fucking comes out. And this look on Sigourney Weaver's face is just like, fuck. Like, I have to do it. So she uses her flamethrower that she has to kill it. She burns the other eggs. She starts to burn the Queen. The aliens start coming in at her. And Ripley and Newt basically race out of there. The Queen detaches from herself from like the egg. This is like massive egg sack, which is really cool. And chases them to the elevator. And it's a really cool, nerve-wracking scene.
Yeah, the scene with the Queen is phenomenal. The design of the Queen, like I think that's one of Stan Winston's best designs for Alien, because this thing looks humongous, and at this time in '86, it was a giant puppet, and it just looks so good. It looked absolutely good. But also, like Dean said, I like the fact that the other aliens in the Queen's chamber sort of backed off from Ripley because they didn't want to cause the Queen any damage. It was just a really, really, really good action-filled sequence to propel this film to its conclusion.
So Ripley and Newt escape. But the ship is gone, not there. Then Bishop shows up behind them, and Newt and Ripley jump on and he flies away. And as the ship is flying away from the planet, the colony explodes. You can see it exploding behind them. They get back to the main ship. That's it. That's hovering in orbit. And oh no, I don't know when this happened. The Queen has stowed away. When did that, Marcelo? When did that happen?
In a lost reel somewhere. 'cause
Oh, it must be. It must be. Yep. Mhm.
But look,
The Queen
look,
is
look,
so
look,
big,
look.
they would have seen her.
Yeah, she's so big. Yeah, there's no way in physical hell that the Queen could have stowed away with an ass like that and
No.
and not be noticed. I mean, look, guys. I say it every few episodes, but you know what? I'm gonna give James Cameron the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna say writer's convenience.
Writer's convenience, or it could be in the director's cut. So I don't know.
We don't know. We don't know because I haven't seen the director's cut in a while, and I haven't seen this film in a while. To be fair, but I loved the shot of the colony basically blowing up after the self-destruct took off, and I did feel that the final action push of this movie went on a little bit too long. I feel that this movie had two endings.
Like Alien.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's the same thing essentially. So the Queen kills Bishop, which is a shame because we like Bishop. He didn't get much screen time, let's be honest, but we like Bishop.
No.
So then the Queen goes after Newt when Ripley shows up in the body loader Caterpillar P5000, whatever the fuck it's called, the yellow thing. That's really cool, which is badass. And then the famous line,
"Get away from her, you bitch!"
and there's a cool fight because I think the reason James Cameron invented the loader thing, it's because like there has to be a showdown between Ripley and the Queen, and Ripley herself can't beat the Queen. So she's got to have, and weapons are not going to be good enough. So let's put her in a transformer thing. So, she's got a chance, which is really, really cool. And there's a cool fight between Loader, Ripley, and the Queen, and they end up falling down some whole thingy, and Ripley ends up blowing it out the airlock, just like in Alien. And yeah, so the final scene of the movie is basically Ripley puts Newt in a hibernation pod. Hicks is already there because he's alive, and Ripley gets in hers, and that's the end.
And despite me just saying that I have some issues with the end of this movie because it kind of echoes scenes from the first one, I do feel that James Cameron giving Ripley a sort of loader outfit to fight the Queen is phenomenal. I mean, the sequence when Ripley falls down the air shaft with the Queen on top of her is like one of the most tense moments of the entire movie. And when Ripley climbs up the air shaft slowly, you kind of feel nervous for her because you don't think that she's going to get to the top to actually activate the airlock to suck out the Queen. So it's a very, very, very tense-filled moment, and it's just really, really well done. And every time that Bishop gets impaled in this movie, I feel pissed. Well, I feel that Bishop was shortchanged, but listen, the ending of this movie is so well done. It's just so well done. And the cool down moment of Ripley just preparing Newt for the long sleep and sort of showing that that some other characters survived is really well done. So despite me having the issues with the third act, like I just said, I think that James Cameron did the best that he could have done with the third act of this movie.
It's almost perfect. I mean, it is. It is almost perfect screenwriting. Trivia?
Go right ahead.
James Cameron filmed the scene where we meet the Marines at the beginning of the movie last. And he did that on purpose so that the bond between the actors was already formed after months of shooting. And I love that about him.
I love that act by James. Shooting the scene where your characters meet for the first time first is such a good idea because then your actors can take that can take that familiarity and use it throughout the whole rest of the shoot.
Sigourney Weaver worked with James Cameron on several script changes as she felt Ripley should respond in certain ways. And James was more than happy to accommodate her. Sigourney is also like an advocate for gun control, and she didn't want Ripley to use any weapons of any kind, especially guns. But her and James came to a compromise on how much Ripley should use a gun, which is why we don't see Ripley using a gun in that many scenes. So I like how James accommodated her. That was actually really nice.
The fact that James accommodated Sigourney Weaver in that way with her belief systems is really, really nice, because there's not too many directors who would do that for their main actors, especially in today's day and age.
So Lance Hendrickson, who plays Bishop, is actually a U.S. Navy veteran.
I did not know that. I had no idea.
Yeah, crazy. My last piece of trivia is the alien nest, the Queen's Nest set, was actually kept intact after filming and was later used in Batman 1989. Tim Burton's Batman.
No way.
Yeah.
Jump back.
And when they went onto the set, it actually was still looked like that Queen's Nest.
Oh my God. Wow. That is the trivia nugget of the season, folks. That's amazing.
For you, yeah. Yep. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
All right, guys. So that'll do it for this episode, and that'll do it for another season of the Mixtape Podcast. Listen, guys, if you like the show that we put on here and you want to send us comments or questions, we do have an email. It's themixtapepod at AOL.com. So if you want to send us an email telling us how awesome we are, or if you want to send us an email giving us suggestions about films that we should talk about in the future, you're more than welcome to do that. Until next time, as I say often, if someone is kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must truly mean that they love you.
The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.